I first met her at the cafe near the university. The kind of place where the music is just loud enough to fill silences, but not enough to drown your thoughts. I went there most mornings, more out of habit than need. I told myself it was for the coffee, but maybe it was the quiet, or maybe it was her. She always sat by the window. Same table, same cup. Black coffee, no sugar. The light would catch the silver in her hair just right, like the world wanted you to notice her even if she didn't want to be noticed. I didn't know her name then, only that she looked like someone who'd stopped waiting for something a long time ago. I was 24. Finishing my degree, pretending I had plans. She looked mid-40s, maybe older. There was a ring on her finger, but she never checked her phone. I noticed that. People in love always check their phones. The first time we spoke, it wasn't even a real conversation. She reached for the sugar jar and I passed it to her before she asked. "Thanks," she said, looking up briefly. Her voice was calm, too calm. "Sure," I said. My hand brushed the edge of her sleeve, warm wool. I felt it for the rest of the morning. The next few weeks were the same. We'd exchange small things. A smile, a nod, a comment about the weather. Once she said the playlist in the cafe had gotten worse. They used to play Ella Fitzgerald, she said, stirring her coffee absently. I said, "You noticed that too?" She smiled then. "You'd be surprised what I notice." That smile stayed with me for days. She didn't wear perfume, but somehow she carried a scent, something faint like old books and cedar. One morning, I got there late and she wasn't at her table. I sat anyway. Ordered what I usually ordered. The cup stayed full for an hour. When she finally walked in, she looked different. Red scarf, hair tied back, tired. She didn't see me at first. But when she did, her face softened, like she'd been holding her breath. "Rough morning?" I asked before I could stop myself. "Something like that," she said. Then after a pause, "You're early today." "Actually, late." She laughed quietly, and it sounded like something private. That day she sat across from me for the first time. She didn't say much, just sipped her coffee, staring out the window. I didn't either. There was something easier about silence when she was in it. She traced the rim of her cup with her finger, slow and absent. I caught myself looking at her hands, her wedding ring, the small veins, the calm way she moved. I folded my napkin 3 times, then unfolded it, not sure what to do with it. We didn't exchange names until the 7th time we met. "I'm Rena," she said, after the barista called my name wrong again. I smiled. "I know. You've been listening. Maybe." She tilted her head. "Maybe." Her voice made simple words sound like confessions. When she left that day, she hesitated at the door, turned slightly, like she was about to say something else. But she didn't. I watched her walk out into the gray light, scarf fluttering in the wind. My coffee was cold by then. A few minutes later my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "I shouldn't have sat with you today." I stared at it for a long time before typing anything back. Then deleted every word I tried to write, and that's how it started. Not with a kiss, not even a touch. Just a message that felt like a warning. Or maybe an invitation. I didn't see Rena for a week after that text. I told myself I was fine with it. People drift, cafes change, life moves. But I still found myself watching the door every time it opened. When she finally showed up, she looked like she hadn't slept much. A faint bruise, colored shadow beneath her eyes. She didn't go to her usual table. Instead, she walked straight toward mine. "Do you mind?" she asked, already setting her bag down. "Not at all." She smiled faintly. "I figured. You never look like you mind much." We sat there for a while, not talking. The radio hummed softly in the background, something low, like a heartbeat that didn't want to be heard. I asked if she was okay. She said, "I told my husband I was meeting an old friend." Guess that wasn't a total lie. Her voice was light, but her eyes stayed fixed on the cup between her hands. Something in my chest tightened. I wanted to ask more. Why she felt the need to say that. Whether she was happy. But the words got caught somewhere between my throat and my better judgment. She broke the silence instead. "When I was your age, I wanted to move to Florence," she said, half smiling. "Thought I'd paint, or teach art, or something. Then I met him. Plans have a way of becoming furniture. You just live around them." I nodded, pretending I understood, though I wasn't sure I did. "Do you still paint?" Sometimes, she said, mostly walls, repainting the same ones. We both laughed quietly at that. Then the silence grew again, softer this time, not uncomfortable but aware. Her phone buzzed. She turned it face down. Sorry, she said, and then, after a moment, he doesn't really like me going out alone. Thinks I should be home more. He says I get distracted. She didn't look up when she said it. I wanted to say something, that it didn't sound fair, that she deserved distraction. But I didn't. I just reached across the table, slowly, and pushed the sugar jar toward her. You forgot, I said quietly. She blinked like I just reminded her she existed. Then she smiled, small and tired. Thanks. Later when we left, it was raining lightly. I walked her to her car without thinking. She fumbled with her keys, dropped them, and we both bent to pick them up. Our hands brushed, just once, but long enough to make the air shift. She didn't move right away. Neither did I. Then she said, almost a whisper, "You should be careful with women like me." Why? Her eyes met mine, steady, unreadable. Because we forget how to stop wanting things. She got into her car, started the engine, but didn't drive off right away. I stood there, hands in pockets, watching her taillights blur red in the rain. I don't know why that moment stayed with me. Maybe because it felt like someone finally saw me. Raina stopped coming for a while after that night in the rain. 2 weeks. Maybe 3. Long enough for the air in the cafe to feel wrong, like a song that ends mid-note. I told myself she owed me nothing, that we were just two people who happened to share a table sometimes. But every time the bell above the door chimed, I looked up, like a reflex I couldn't unlearn. When she finally peered, she looked different. Lighter coat, hair let down. But her smile didn't reach her eyes. Sorry, she said. Work's been strange. I nodded, though I didn't believe her.
You okay?
Of course. But her hands trembled slightly as she set her cup down. She'd always been steady before. That's what drew me in. Her calm, her control. Seeing her like that, uncertain, fragile, felt wrong. Like watching a painting crack under sunlight. We didn't sit in silence this time. She asked about my project. The architecture thesis that I'd mostly given up on. I told her about the design, about how I couldn't get the balance right. Maybe it's not meant to balance, she said. Maybe it's supposed to lean a little. Like people do. I smiled at that. You sound like a professor. I used to teach art before. She trailed off. Before things got comfortable. Comfortable, I repeated. That doesn't sound bad. It is, when it turns into silence. Something in the way she said silence made me want to reach for her hand. I didn't. The door opened behind us. The wind carried voices in. A woman from my university, a friend of mine, spotted me. Hey, she said, walking over. Didn't expect to see you here. She looked at Rena, then back at me. Group meeting tomorrow, she asked, her tone half curious. Yeah, tomorrow. After she left, Rena stirred her tea, eyes lowered. She's pretty, she said softly. She's just, I know. She smiled again, but it wasn't real. For the first time, I saw what this looked like from the outside. A young man and a married woman sitting too close, talking too quietly. I shifted back, just a little, she noticed. Her lips pressed together. You're pulling away, she said, not accusing, just noticing. I don't want to mess things up, I said. Things, she repeated. Is that what this is? I didn't answer. Couldn't. We sat there until the light began to fade. That heavy, golden kind of dusk that makes everything feel half finished. When she finally stood, I did too. She reached for her bag, but her hand brushed mine again. An accidental, quiet tremor. For a heartbeat, we didn't move. Just the warmth of skin against skin. Her lips parted, maybe to speak, maybe not. Then she pulled back. Wish it'd stop meeting like this, she said, voice barely above a whisper. But the way she lingered, the half step closer before she turned away, said the opposite. And I stood there, heart caught somewhere between staying and letting her go. We started meeting outside the cafe after that, by accident at first, then, less so. Sometimes she'd wait near the corner bookstore, pretending to browse. Other times, I'd take the long route home and find her sitting on a bench near the park, a paper cup in her hands, steam curling in the cold. That evening was colder than usual. The kind of air that turns words into visible breath. You're avoiding me again, I said quietly. Rina didn't look at me. You noticed. I always notice. She smiled faintly, eyes fixed on the trees across the street. Bare branches, thin against the fading light. I thought distance might help, she said. Does it? She shook her head once. No. The silence between us stretched, thick with what neither of us would name. Somewhere nearby, a car alarm chirped, then went quiet again. Even that felt intrusive. Did your friend ask about me? She said after a while. The girl from the cafe. I hesitated. Yeah, just wondered who you were. And what did you tell her? That you're someone I talk to. She turned then, eyes sharp. Not angry, just searching. Is that all? I swallowed. It's all I can say. Something in her expression faltered, like a door closing too softly. I see. No, it's not like. But she was already looking away again. I don't know what this is, she said, voice lower now. Whatever it is, it shouldn't be this close. Her hand tightened around the coffee cup until it creased. I watched the motion, the faint tremor, the way she seemed to hold herself together by sheer will. Then she sighed, leaned back, eyes distant. Do you ever feel like you've become someone you don't recognize? All the time, I said before thinking. She looked at me then, really looked. When I was your age, I thought I'd know who I was by now. But I just keep becoming other people, wife, teacher, caretaker. None of them feel like me. The confession hung there, fragile. I wanted to tell her I understood. That I'd been waiting to be seen too. But I couldn't find the words. So I reached out, touched the edge of her sleeve. Barely. She didn't move away. Her breath hitched, the faintest sound. I could smell the coffee, the rain in her hair, the warmth between us that shouldn't have been there. Rena, I said quietly. She turned to me, just a tilt of her head, enough that I could see the tremor at her jaw. I think we both leaned in, just slightly. Then she whispered, Don't. I froze. She exhaled, almost laughing, not out of humor but exhaustion. You'll make me forget myself again, she said. The streetlight flickered once. Somewhere, a bus passed, headlights washing over us. When it was quiet again I asked, or maybe just thought I did, and if I already have. She didn't answer, just closed her eyes, and that silence said everything I was afraid to hear. After that night on the bench Rena disappeared again, no texts, no nothing. Days slipped by, then weeks. At first I waited. Then I pretended not to. Routine filled in the spaces she left, classes, deadlines, noise. But underneath it all, a kind of echo remained. Like the air still remembered her perfume long after she'd left the room. I told myself I'd stop checking my phone. I didn't. One evening, on my way home, I saw her car parked outside the cafe. The same pale blue one I'd walked her to once. I hesitated before going in, watching from across the street. She wasn't alone. A man, older, sharp suit, wedding ring gleaming under the streetlight. He leaned close as he spoke to her. She laughed softly, but it wasn't the kind of laugh I'd heard before. It sounded practiced. Her hand rested briefly on his arm. Then she looked out the window, right at me. For a second, our eyes met. Then she looked away. I didn't go inside. That night, I got her message. Don't come by anymore. It's better this way. No greeting, no goodbye. Just a full stop. I typed 3 replies, deleted all of them. I wanted to ask why. If I'd done something. If that man was her husband. Or someone else. But every word felt like trespassing. The next morning I went to the cafe anyway. Her seat was empty. The barista asked, Where's your usual company today? I shrugged, pretending I didn't know who he meant. I sat there alone, sipping coffee gone cold, staring at the chair across from me. The sunlight hit it just the same, like nothing had changed. But everything had. A week later, I found out by accident. My professor mentioned a new art exhibition opening downtown. A former teacher, Mrs. Rena Cato, he said, used to teach art before she took a break for family reasons. I went, I don't know why. The gallery was quiet, white walls breathing out calm. Her work was different from what I imagined, not flowers or portraits but empty rooms, windows half open. A single chair facing the wrong direction. There was a note beside one painting, to the stranger who reminded me I could still be seen. I stared at it for a long time. When I got home, I started typing a message again. I saw your paintings. They looked like us. But I never sent it. Instead, I saved it to drafts and closed my phone. I didn't feel heartbroken, I felt paused. Like life forgot to finish the sentence. It was almost spring when she showed up again. The cafe had switched playlists, something lighter now, and the barista didn't recognize her at first. But I did, even before she looked up. She ordered black coffee, no sugar, same as always. Then she saw me. Her eyes widened a little, just for a moment. Then softened. "I thought you moved," she said. "I thought you quit coffee," I said. That made her laugh. It was small, a little broken around the edges, but real. We didn't sit at our old table. She asked if I'd walk her home instead. It wasn't far. The air was soft with drizzle, streetlights trembling in puddles. She carried her umbrella but didn't open it. I didn't ask why. At her door, she paused, one hand on the knob, the other still holding the umbrella loosely, like she'd forgotten it was there. "You came to the gallery," she said. I nodded. "I didn't mean to." "You always mean to," she smiled, faintly. Not accusing, not forgiving, just tired. Inside, her house smelled like paint and rain. The lights were dim. A single mug sat on the counter beside a drying brush. She poured water, handed me a glass. Her hands shook slightly. "I shouldn't have texted you that night," she said. "The one that ended with a full stop. I shouldn't have believed it," I said. She leaned against the counter, staring at the floor. "He found out," she said quietly. "My husband. About the cafe. About the time." I felt my chest tighten. What did nothing? Just left. Took a job abroad. I think he was waiting for an excuse to go. She looked up at me then. "It's funny, isn't it? You try to be careful. And somehow, you still end up alone." The silence that followed wasn't heavy. Just tired. "I thought about messaging you," I said. "But I didn't know what to say that wouldn't sound stupid." "You could have said you missed me. Would that have helped?" She smiled again, barely. "No. But it would have been true." For a while, we just stood there, the hum of the fridge filling the space between words. Her fingers traced the rim of her glass, and I watched the motion like it meant something. Maybe it did. Finally, she looked up. "I'm not asking for anything," she said. "I just wanted to see if you'd still look at me the same way." "I do," I said. "That's the problem." Her breath caught, and for a second, the room felt smaller, air thinning, time slowing. Then she reached out, touched my sleeve. Not a pull, not a plea, just a touch. "Then maybe we can stop pretending," she whispered. I could have kissed her. I didn't. Instead, I placed my hand over hers. Just that, and she smiled, faintly, like something fragile had finally stopped breaking. "Okay," she said. And somehow, that word felt like both an ending and a beginning. It's been a year. The cafe changed owners. The playlist louder now, the coffee weaker. I still go. Not every morning, just when I need to remember something I can't name. She joins me sometimes. Not always. Some days it's just me and the hum of the espresso machine, the seat across from me catching the same morning light it always did. But when she comes, it feels right. Like the story finally learned how to breathe again. Rena doesn't wear her ring anymore. She doesn't hide her smile either. She's teaching part-time again. Art classes at a community center. Kids who leave fingerprints on everything. She says they remind her what it feels like to start over. I work now, small architectural firm, quiet projects, apartments mostly, spaces meant for living, not showing off. I think she'd like that. We don't talk about what happened. Not the messages, not the silences, not the almosts. It's not that we've forgotten, it's just unnecessary now. What mattered found its place. One Sunday she asked me to meet her at the park. The same bench, the same hour as before. 8:47 a.m. She brought tea this time, I brought coffee. We traded cups halfway through without saying anything. The air was soft with early sun, the kind that doesn't try too hard. "Do you ever think about that night?" she asked. "Sometimes," I said. "Mostly when it rains." She smiled. "Me too." A child's laughter echoed nearby, breaking the stillness. She watched the little boy chase after a paper plane. For a second, her face softened in that quiet way it does when she's remembering something. Or someone. "Life's strange," she said. "You think you've lost everything, and then it comes back but smaller. Manageable. Yeah," I said. "Like a second cup of coffee you didn't know you wanted." She laughed, shaking her head. Still bad with metaphors. Still showing up anyway. That part, I don't mind. We sat for a long time without talking. Just the sound of wind moving through branches, the low buzz of morning life waking up around us. At one point, her hand brushed mine. This time, neither of us hesitated. No confessions, no promises, just presence. When she leaned her head against my shoulder, it wasn't about what we'd lost or broken. It was about what we'd managed to keep. The quiet part of love that doesn't ask to be named. I think about that sometimes, how love doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it just stays, in routines, in silence, in shared cups of coffee gone cold. That morning ended the way most good things do, gently, without ceremony. She stood stretched and said, "Same time next week." "Always," I said.